Hello viewers, I'm Babul Basudari. I teach political science in Business College, which is affiliated to the Gauhati University. Today I'll discuss on the topic Swiss Federal Parliament. This is known as the Swiss Federal Assembly in the Swiss Constitution. Then regarding the naming of the highest federal institution in the states across the globe, we have various names. For example, in the United States of America, this highest federal lawmaking institution is known as the Congress. And the United Kingdom, this is known as the Parliament, and in the state of China, this is known as the National People's Congress, and then in our India, this institution is known as the Sangsad. So we have various names on these institutions. So in our discussions, we try to understand the structure, power and functions, and then the features of the Swiss Federal Parliament. At the same time, we also try to know the position of the Swiss Federal Parliament in the Swiss political systems. So these institutions, the Swiss Federal Assembly or the Parliament, it was instituted in the year 1848 when the Swiss people they got their first written constitution. So since then, that time, the institution it has been functioning. So regarding the structure of the Swiss Federal Assembly, it is a bicameral legislature. It consists of two houses. It has upper house and the lower house. The upper house, this is known as the Council of States, and the lower house, this is known as the National Councils. And the upper house, the Council of State, it is seldom known as the Senate. It represents the cantons, that means the federating units. And then the National Council, it represents the Swiss people. So regarding the composition of this highest lawmaking institution of the Switzerland, it has 246 members in total, and the National Council it has 200 members, and the Council of State it has only 46 members. Since the Council of State it represents the Swiss cantons, so the number of Swiss cantons at present it has 26 cantons, and out of the 26 cantons, only 20 cantons they enjoy the full-fledged membership in the Council of States, and the half cantons they enjoy the half membership in the Council of States. So this record total members of 246 members in the highest lawmaking institution of the Switzerland. It is taken from the data of the last election held in 2019 in the month of 20 October. So we try to understand the feature of the Swiss Federal Assembly, and at the same time we also try to understand the position of the Swiss federal institutions in the Swiss federal politics. So first feature of the Swiss Federal Assembly is the supremacy of the federal parliament. That means the law passed by the federal parliament is not subject to any veto power of the federal executive. That means what? Executive, it cannot interfere in the lawmaking functioning of the Swiss Federal Assembly. And the second point is that why the federal parliament is not is supremacy. So second point is the law passed by the parliament is not subject to the judicial review. That means the Swiss judiciary it doesn't have the power of judicial review. It cannot strike down the law passed by the Swiss Federal Assembly. And the next point, why the Swiss Federal Assembly is powerful, because the parliament elects the members of the federal government and the judiciary. The members of the federal parliament they can elect the members of the federal executive, that means the governments and the judiciary. And this federal institution it has the power to approve or disapprove the advice given by the Swiss federal government in terms of lawmaking. And last point, why the Swiss Federal Assembly is powerful, because the member of the Swiss federal governments are responsible before the parliament. That is why the Swiss Federal Assembly is supreme. So let's talk about the next feature of the Swiss Federal Assembly. Swiss Federal Assembly, it is a supremacy of the parliament is limited to the popular will. That means the people of Switzerland they controls the Swiss Federal Assembly. Here, point is that why parliament is limited to the popular will, because the Swiss people, they enjoy the power of referendum. Every law passed by the Swiss Federal Assembly, it is subject to review through the process of referendum by the people of Switzerland. They can also reject any law of the federal parliament through this referendum process. And the constitutional amendment power, it is passed only after the approval of the Swiss peoples. So regarding the constitutional amendment process, the bill can be initiated for the amendment of the constitution of the Switzerland. It can be initiated by the Swiss people after gathering the support of 50,000 people. So next feature of the Swiss Federal Assembly is that its power is defined. Since the Switzerland is a federal state, so their power has been divided into three categories. It has three subjects: federal subjects, concurrent subjects, and the cantonal subjects. The Federal Assembly, it can only touch in the time of lawmaking on the federal subjects and the concurrent subjects. It cannot touch the cantonal subjects. So its power is defined to these two subjects. And another most important features of the Swiss Federal Assembly is that both the houses of the Swiss political assembly, it enjoys the equal power, and it is empowered by the Article 148 in the Section 2. It lies down that the equal power to both the house of the Federal Assembly. The functions of upper house, that is the Council of State, are no in way different from those of the lower house, that is the National Council, and it's a unique feature in the Swiss Federal Assembly. If you compare with the power of the Swiss with the Federal Assembly of the other state, then you will find that in United States of America, merely the Senate is more powerful than the. Then one of the most important features of the Swiss Federal Assembly is that every member of the Swiss Federal Assembly, they can enjoy to speak in their mother tongues. The Constitution of Switzerland, it has recognized 4 languages as a constitutional languages. For example, German, French, and Italian, and Romance. Those languages are recognized as the constitutional language in the Swiss constitutions. So through these constitutional rights, every members of the Swiss Federal Assembly, they enjoy freedom of speaking their mother tongues, and all the parliamentary reports, resolutions, and the decisions are published in the German, French, and Italians. But those resolutions, reports, and the decisions, these are not published in the Roman language. And the last feature, it is a unique feature in the Swiss Federal Assembly. This is the absence of the partisan spirit among the members. All the major political parties like the Free Democratic Party, Social Democratic Party, Christian Democratic Party, the Swiss People's Party, and the Conservative Party, they are the major political parties in the Swiss political systems, and they hold 3/4 seats and becomes the coalition partners. And after getting elected in the Swiss Federal Assembly, especially in the National Council, they give up their political affiliations and they maintain their neutrality. And this trend of becoming neutrality, it paved the way for having the absence of strong opposition in the national councils. So from these discussions of the features of the Swiss Federal Assembly, we have been learned that the Swiss Federal Assembly, in compare with the other political institutions, for example judiciary and the Swiss Federal Executive, it is less powerful. Why it is less powerful? Because number one point is that the operation of referendum is there. Ultimately, the Swiss people, it controls the parliaments through the process of referendum. And second point is that the proportional representation system is there in electing the members of the national councils. So this proportional representation also makes the Swiss Federal Assembly weak because due to the presence of the proportional representation systems in the elections of the Swiss National Assembly, it makes having the strong, powerful political parties, exclusive political parties. So that is why in the Swiss federal system, we are not finding the strong oppositions to oppose the laws passed by the Swiss federal assemblies. And it is very important to have opposition party to give the perfect track in the process of law making of the parliaments. So that is why the Swiss federal system can be regarded as the less powerful federal institutions in the state of Switzerland. And the next point is that in the contemporary times, what is happening, though the constitution does not allow the federal executive of Switzerland, it has been becoming more and more powerful, and truly it has been trying to control the functionings and the power of the Swiss federal assembly. So that is why from those points we are very clear that in compare with the three organs of the Swiss political systems, the executive, legislature and judiciary, among those institutions, the Swiss Federal Assembly is less powerful in compare with the Swiss Federal Executives. So thank you.